Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Pari Brajakacharya. Astoterzita Shri Shiman Srila Bhakti Rakak Sri Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Welcome to Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mission morning class. Dandavat. Prabhu, that was the previous one was erased?
Yes.
Okay. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jata Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitangstam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vidangscha Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam excuse me, Dadati Swapadantikam Haribol. Okay, continuing to read Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We are in chapter 15. And this is verse number 17. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Can you hear in the kitchen? Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Okay. Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Ki Jai Srila Om Vishnupada A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Taha Ama Shange Tomara Havidara Shana Agya Panya Mishra Kaila Kashite Gamana. The Lord assured Tapan Mishra that they would meet again in Varanasi. Receiving this order, Tapan Mishra went there. Prabhura Atar Kyalila Bujitena Pari Swashanga Chadanya Kehe Pataya Kashipuri. I cannot understand the inconceivable pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for although Tapan Mishra wanted to live with him in Navadvip, the Lord advised him to go to Varanasi. He's independent. When Tapan Mishra met him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living in household life, and there was no indication that in the future he would accept the sannyas order. But by asking Tapan Mishra to go to Varanasi, he indicated that in the future he would accept sannyas, and when he would teach and that he would teach Sanatana Goswami, Tapan Mishra would take advantage of the opportunity to learn the object of life and the real process for attaining it, because he had become bewildered from simply studying the scriptures. Hey Mata Bangera Lokera Kaila Mahahita Namadiya Bhakta Kaila Padanya Pandita. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu contributed the greatest benefit to the people of East Bengal by initiating them into Harinam, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and making them learned scholars by educating them. Purport: following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Krishna consciousness movement is distributing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and inducing people all over the world to chant. And did he ever? We are giving people an immense treasury of transcendental literature, translated into all the important languages of the world. And by the grace of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this literature is selling profusely. And people are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with great delight. This is the preaching process of the Chaitanya cult. Since the Lord wanted this call preached all over the world, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is acting in a humble way so that the vision of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu may be fulfilled all over the world, especially in the Western countries. So as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, taking a straw in my mouth, I will set out to propagate the holy name, glories of the holy name. So there must be some humility there. Not that our ego is going to come out and E Matabange Prabhu Kare Nanya Lila Atanabadvipe Lakshmi Virahe Duki Haila. Because the Lord was engaged in various ways in preaching work in East Bengal, his wife Lakshmi Devi was very unhappy at home in separation from her husband. Prabhura Viraha Sarpa Lakshmi Re Dangshila Viraha Sharpa Bishetara Paraloka Haila. The snake of separation bit Lakshmi Devi, and his poison caused her death. Thus she passed to the next world. She went home back to Godhead. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, yang vapi sparam bhavang Jante Kalevaram. One's practice in thinking throughout his entire life determines the quality of his thoughts at death. And thus at death one obtains a suitable body. According to this principle, Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune from Vaikuntha, who was absorbed in thought of the Lord in separation from him, certainly went back home, back to Vaikuntha after her death. Actually, she's the goddess of fortune. She's the goddess of fortune, so there's no question of her not being in the divine plane. But Srila Prabhupada is making a point for us that she was completely absorbed in Mahaprabhu, in separation from Mahaprabhu. And the snake, this is all divine pastimes. This separation came actually in the form of a snake and bit her. Antare Janila Prabhu Jate Antarjami Deshere Aila Prabhu Shachi Dukha Jani. Lord Chaitanya knew about the disappearance of Lakshmi Devi because he is the super soul himself. Thus he returned home to solace his mother Shachi Devi, who was greatly unhappy about the death of her daughter-in-law. Kare Aila Prabhu Bahulanya Danachana Tafagyane Kaila Shachira Dukkha Vimochana. When the Lord returned home, bringing with him great wealth and many followers, he spoke to Shachi Devi about transcendental knowledge to relieve her of the grief that she was suffering. Shishyagana Lanya Puna Vidyara Bilasa Vidyabale Shabajini Audacha Prakasha. After coming back from East Bengal, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began educating others. By the strength of his education, he conquered everyone, and thus he was greatly proud. Not in any mundane sense, of course, but very proud, meaning very happy that he can have this influence in the world. Tabe Vishnu Priya Thakuranyira Parinaya Tabe Ta Karila Prabhu Digvijayi Jaya. Then Lord Chaitanya married Vishnu Priya, the goddess of fortune, and thereafter he conquered a champion of learning named Keshava Kashmiri. Vrindavan, let me just see now here. In the Bhakti Ratnakar mentions Keshava Kashmiri and lists his predecessors in the disciplic succession of the Nimbarka Sampradaya. Srinivasacharya, Vishvacharya, Purushottam Bilas, Swarup Madhava Balabhadra, Padma Shyama Gopal, Kripa, Devacharya, Sundar Bhatta, Padmanabha, Upendra Ramachandra, meaning a devotee Ramachandra, Vamana Krishna, Padmakara, Shravana, Bhuri, Madhava, Shyama Gopal, and Balabhadra, Gopinath, Keshava, Gokula, and Keshava Kashmiri. It is stated in the Bhakti Ratnakar that Keshava Kashmiri was a favorite devotee of Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. By her grace, he was an extremely influential scholar, and he was the greatest champion among the scholars in the four corners of the country. Therefore, he got the title Digvijay, which means one who has conquered everyone in all directions. He belonged to a very respectable Brahmin family of Kashmir. Later, by the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave up the profession of winning championships and became a great devotee. Big difference. He joined the Nimbarka Sampradaya, one of the Vaishnava communities of the Vedic culture. Excuse me. Vrindavana dasa iha karyachena bishtara sputanahi kare dosha gunera vichara. Vrindavan Das Thakur has previously elaborately described this. That which is clear need not be scrutinized for good qualities and faults. It's already perfectly there. Say angsa kahitare kari namaskara, jashuni digvijai kaila apana digkara. Offering my obeisances to Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, I shall try to describe that portion of the Lord's analysis, which, when he heard it, made the Digvijay feel himself condemned. Jyotsnavati Ratri Prabhu Shishya Ganashange Vashiye Chena Ganga Tire Vijara Prasange. Once on a full moon night, the Lord was sitting on the banks of the Ganges with his many disciples and discussing literary topics. Hena Kale Digvijay Tahani Aila Gangare Brindavan Kari Prabhure Milila. Coincidentally, Keshava Kashmiri Pandit came there. While offering his prayers to Mother Ganges, he met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Basaila Tare Prabhu Adara Kariya Digvijay Kahe Mane Avagya Kariya. The Lord received him with adoration, but because Keshava Kashmiri was very proud, he talked to the Lord very inconsiderately. He's thinking he's very great, and this young scholar is giving me so much respect. And then he spoke in not very affectionate or according to nice etiquette. Vyakarana padaha nimani pandita tomara nama balya shastre gloke tomara kahe gunagrama. I understand that you're a teacher of grammar, he said, and that your name is Nimai Pandit. People speak very highly of your teaching of beginner's grammar. Formerly, Sanskrit schools taught grammar very thoroughly, and this system continues even now. A student was supposed to study grammar carefully for 12 years at the beginning of his life. Because if one is expert in grammar of the Sanskrit language, all the Shastras are open to him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was famous for teaching grammar to students, and therefore Keshava Kashmiri first referred to his position as a teacher of grammar. Keshava Kashmiri was very proud of his literary career. He was far above the first lessons of grammar, and so he thought that the position of Nimai Pandit was not at all comparable to his own. Vyakarana Majjani Padaha Kalapa Shunilum pankite tomara shishira shanglapa. I understand that you teach Kalapa Vyakarana. I have heard that your students are very expert in the word jugglery of this grammar. Purport. There are many schools of grammar in the Sanskrit language, the most famous of which are the systems of Panini and Kalapa and Kaumudi grammars. There were different branches of grammatical knowledge, and the student of grammar was supposed to study them all in 12 years. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was famous as Nimai Pandit, taught grammar to his students, who became expert in dealing with the word jugglery of complicated grammar. Almost everyone expert in studying grammar interprets the Shastras in many ways by changing the root meanings of their words. A student of grammar can sometimes completely change the meaning of a sentence by juggling grammatical rules. Keshava Kashmiri indirectly taunted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that although he was a great teacher of grammar, such grammatical jugglery of root meanings does not require great expertise. This was a challenge to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because it was prearranged that Keshava Kashmiri would have to discuss the Shastras with Nimai Pandit. From the very beginning, he wanted to bluff the Lord. Thus the Lord replied as follows. It's like you would say a game, but it is not. This word jugglery that is possible by grammar, it is kind of like it's jugglery. It's kind of like a game, but a person who's very expert can notice, oh, you're just doing this, but that is not the real meaning. Prabhu kahe vyakarana padaye abhinmanakari shishetena bijay ami bujaite nari. The Lord said, yes, I'm known as a teacher of grammar, but factually I cannot impress my students with grammatical knowledge, nor can they understand me very well. Since Keshava Kashmiri was a little puffed up, the Lord increased his artificial pride by presenting himself as subordinate to him. He thus flattered him as follows. Kahatumi sarva shastre kavitve pravina kaha ami shabeshishu paduya navina. My dear sir, whereas you are a very learned scholar in all sorts of scriptures and are very much experienced in composing poetry, I am only a boy. I read that wrong. My dear sir, whereas you are a very learned scholar in all sorts of scriptures and are very much experienced in composing poetry, I am only a boy, a new student, and nothing more. Tomarakavit kitchu shunite hayamana kripakari kara jadi gangara varnana. Therefore I desire to hear your skill in composing poetry. We could hear this if you would mercifully describe the glory of Mother Ganges. Here's the Ganges. And we would very much be happy to hear you composing something in praise of Mother Ganges to show us your great skill. Shuniya Brahmana Garve Varnite Lagila Gati Eke Shata Shloka Gangara Varnila. When the Brahmin, Keshava Kashmiri, heard this, he became still more puffed up, and within an hour he composed 100 verses describing Mother Ganges. Shunya Karila Prabhu Bahuta Sadkara Tomashama Pritivite Kavinahiara. The Lord praised him, saying, Sir, there is no greater poet than you in the whole entire world. Tomara Kavita Shloke Bujite Kara Shakti Tumi Bala Jana Arta Kingva Saraswati. Your poetry is so difficult that no one can understand it but you and Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. Purport. Replying to Keshava Kashmiri sarcastically, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indirectly minimized the value of his poetry, saying, yes, your compositions are so nice that no one but you and your worshipable mother, the goddess of learning, can understand them. Keshava Kashmiri was a favorite devotee of Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the master of the goddess of learning, has the right to speak sarcastically of her devotees. In other words, although Keshava Kashmiri was proud of being favored by the goddess of learning, she did not know that he did not know that she is controlled by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Are you following this, Prabhu?
No, Didi.
What?
Because I can hear you.
What? You can't hear?
I can hear. Let's set up a microphone.
Akashlokera arta jarikara nijamuke shuni shabaloka tabe paiba badashuke. But if you explain the meaning of one verse, we can all hear it from your own mouth and thus be happy. So again, the Digvijay Pandit, Keshava Kashmiri, rattled off 100 verses. In an hour, he composed 100 verses in praise of Mother Ganji. Mahaprabhu said, you are so expert that no one can understand your poetry except for you and Mother Saraswati. So if you could explain one verse, then we'll all be happy to hear that. Tabe tigvijai vyakara shloka puchila tat Shata Shlokera Akashloka Prabhuta Padila. The Digvijay Keshava Kashmiri inquired which verse he wanted explained. The Lord then recited one of the 100 verses Keshava Kashmiri had composed. Probably the Keshava Kashmiri did not expect him to be able to point out even one verse, because he would never have been able to memorize them. Mahatvam Gangaya Satatam Idam Abati Nitaram Yad Esha Shri Vishnu Sharana Kama Lotpati Shubhaga Tvitiya Shri Lakshmi Riva Surya Narayana Archacharana Bhavani Bharturja Shirashi Vibhatyadbhuta Guna. The greatness of Mother Ganges always brilliantly exists. She is the most fortunate because she emanated from the lotus feet of Sri Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. She is a second goddess of fortune, and therefore she is always worshipped both by demigods and by humanity. Endowed with all wonderful qualities, she flourishes on the head of Lord Shiva. Eish lokera artakara prabhu jadi baila, Vishmita hanya digvijay prabhure puchila. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him to explain the meaning of the verse, the champion, very much astonished, inquired from him as follows. Jangjavata praya amishloka padaya taramaje shloka tumikaiche kanche kaila. I recited all the verses like the blowing wind. How could you completely learn by heart even one among these verses? Prabhu kahe deveravare tumika vivar aiche deveravare keho haya shrutidar. The Lord replied, by the grace of the Lord, someone may become a great poet, and similarly by his grace, someone else may become a great shrutidar, who can memorize anything immediately. Purport. In this connection, Shruti Dar is a very important word. Shruti means hearing, and Dar means one who can capture. Formerly, before the beginning of the Kali Yuga, almost everyone, especially among the intelligent men, the Brahmins, was a Shruti Dar. So therefore the scriptures were not written down before the Kali Yuga. And we've certainly mentioned this before. Those who are trying to squeeze every single piece of information into this linear timeline of evolution theory. They're going to really wear themselves out, but they don't understand that time is circular. But in any case, they think that the written word is a symptom of the evolution of human consciousness or human thought. But actually, it's the reverse. Before the beginning of Kali Yuga, just everyone could just hear something, they just didn't forget it. This forgetfulness is a symptom of the Kali Yuga. So we now have the written word, like a crutch or a cane, because we cannot remember things immediately. As soon as the student heard any of the Vedic wisdom from his master, he would remember it forever. There was no need to refer to books, and therefore there were no written books in those days. The spiritual master delivered the Vedic hymns and their explanations to the students, who would then remember them forever without consulting books. To become a Shrutidar, one who can remember simply by hearing, is a great achievement for a student. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Jad Jad Vibhutimat Sattvam Srimad Urjitam Evava Tadeva Gachatva Eva Vagachatvam Mamate Jomsha Sambhavam. Know that all opulent, beautiful, and glorious creations spring but from a spark of my splendor. As soon as we find anything extraordinary, we should understand that such an extraordinary manifestation is the special grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied to the champion Keshava Kashmiri that just as he was greatly proud of being a favorite devotee of Mother Saraswati, so someone else, like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, being favored by the personality of Godhead, could become a Shrutidar and thus memorize anything immediately simply by hearing it. So this statement takes away this extreme exclusivity regarding himself that was in the ego of Keshava Kashmiri. You've been favored, and therefore you can do this, and someone else can be favored and be able to do that. And that is very important for all of us to remember who become proud of our accomplishment. Our accomplishments are not really, we have a part to play there, but there are many other elements in that, as the Lord explains in the Gita, but especially the approval of the personality of Godhead. Shlokara arta kaila viprapai ya santosha Prabhu kahe koha shlokera kiba guna dosha. Satisfied by the statement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Brahmin Keshava Kashmiri explained the quoted verse. Then the Lord said, now kindly explain the special qualities and faults in the verse. Not only did Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pick out this one among 100 verses and remember it, although the Brahmin had recited them like the blowing wind, but he also analyzed its qualities and faults. Not only did he hear the verse, but he immediately made a critical study of it. Viprakahe shloke nahi gudoshera abhasa. Oh. I think this is a good place to stop here, because tomorrow we will hear this analysis, this full analysis by Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj ki jai. Srila Om Vishnupad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Dhanyavad. Good morning. Okay. Okay. We are coming to Sadhu Vritti. Sadhu Vritti. So, Utsahan, Nishaya, Darya, Tat Karma Pravartanat, Sangatyaga Sato Vritti, Sadhu Vritti. That means the following in the footsteps of the great devotees. Jai Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai, Jai Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. This is page 483. So I'm skipping a little bit to Sadhu Vritti. I have written separate articles on the subjects Utsaha, Nishchaya, Darya, Tat Karma Pravartana, and Sangha Tyaga. Now I'm writing an article on Sadhu Vritti. There are two types of sadhus according to the distinction between householders and renunciates. The vritti or conduct of these sadhus should adopt will be written about separately according to this distinction within the Vaishnavas. Although the appropriate vrittis for householders and renunciates are different, some are appropriate for them both, and these also will be considered separately. There are two meanings of the term vritti: propensity, pravritti, and livelihood, jivan. A jiva's nature, svabhav, is called their propensity, and the jiva's propensity produced by their nature is their dharma. In Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, Praya svabhava vihito ninam dharmo juge juge Veda drigbi smrito rajan prechache hacha sarmakrit. O king, dharma determined by one's nature in every age is known in general to be a producer of happiness in this world and the next by those whose eyes are the Vedas. So according to one's nature, one is going to perform particular acts of dharma. And then by these acts of dharma, which are in karma kanda, there will be a good result. They are producers of happiness. Actually, this is all I'm going to read this morning of Sri Upadeshamrita because I have some other duty to do. So we're going to have a little shorter class this morning. Haribol. I wish we could see the devotional names of everyone because it's very, very small and I can't see the pictures cut to be. Anyways, Dhanyavad. Jai Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Shri Shri Upadeshamrita ki jai. Hari Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopal Govindaram Srimad Siddham Gopal Govindaram Srimad Giridhari Gopinath Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Radha Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Hey Sai Gosai Gauri Charanananda Jai Te Vignanath Avistapura Hey Sai Gosai Jamui Tarada Tarada Tasavada Parenu More Panchagra Chandira Charana Seri Bhakta Saniva Janame Janame More Abhila Hey Sai Go Sai Jabe Bache Koilaba Shri Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Vaj Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Parimachayama Shri Guru Vaishnava Parapadma Koriya Hari Nam Sankirtan Ko Hai Narottama Das Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Saparika Shishi Guru Gaur Chandra Ju Ki Jai Shri Raj Govardhan Ju Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Srila Bhakti A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda Ki Jai Saparsha Namacharya Shri Laharidas Thakur Ki Jai Saparshad Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Saparshad Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai Tadiya Sakamat Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mission Ki Jai Kol Kartal Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Samaveda Vaishnava Mandala Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nittai Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol Dhanyavad Jai Gurudev Ki Jai